Welcome to Brown Box Television. I'm Crystal Knight, your host. We are broadcasting live from Nashville, Tennessee, here with the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, 47th Annual Legislative Conference. I am here with President Laura Hall. She is the representative from Alabama representing House District 19. Welcome.
Thank you.
So glad that you could join us at the beginning of this conference. Could you just open up and tell our listeners what this conference is about and what do you hope to accomplish this year?
Well, this conference is about helping more than 700 members who are elected across this country and helping them to become more aware of issues that they may be concerned about. Those issues may be maternal mortality, it could be voting rights issues, redistricting, reapportionment. And the idea is really to provide some resources and some education to help them to be able to go back to their districts and hopefully make a difference.
Absolutely. And this is a policy-heavy conference, meaning that state legislators from all across the country will have the opportunity to gain new insight on things that they can take back into their respective districts and hopefully implement.
Sure.
Why is that the focus, particularly for Black legislators?
Well, I think it's very important for Black legislators because presently there is no think tank or area where individuals as African Americans can really go to get maybe some of the information as it relates and impact our community, the African American community. So when you come to a conference like this, which I've attended many over the years, there's an opportunity to get new ideas, to get model legislations that other legislators have done that would very much work in your area. And the education is provided by many professions that are invited or that participate as individuals that's engaged within the conference. So it's very important. The other part of it is just that friendship, that camaraderie that you gain because many times you don't see these individuals over the years. So it's an opportunity to reconnect. Absolutely. And then become, I say, energized and invigorated to move forward and continue to do the work.
That's great. Could you talk to me a little bit about the states that are represented? You said over 700 members. Where are people coming from and what levels of government are they representing?
So we have the individuals, we're talking about members of the state legislature, which would be in the House and the Senate. So we have members that are from states like Nevada, members from the South, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Midwest, Ohio. So all over the country, you will find individuals that are African Americans that are elected and serve as members of the caucus.
And could you share a little bit about the feedback? Obviously, this conference has been going on for decades. What are some of the things that you're hearing from the members about how helpful this conference is ahead of their legislative seasons each year?
I think you would hear people talking about the bills or the information that they've received or heard at a conference. We had an individual that talks about, and I think it was President Billy Mitchell, who talked about the bill that requiring individuals to, as they're taking their driver's test, that was being presented in North Carolina. He took that same bill back, and what you should know when you're driving, and mainly was geared towards, young drivers. And he took that particular bill back to his state and was very instrumental in making sure that it was passed in his state. So it's things like that that gives us that boost, that energy, that enthusiasm to go back and do more.
So the great thing about this conference is that it's policy focused. People are able to take the legislation that they're hearing, or model legislation, go back and implement it. Is there a particular theme this year, a theme around policy that the conference will be focused on, that people will be able to walk away with?
I think the theme mainly focuses, we're now in the future, we're also moving forward. And as we think of moving forward, looking to the future, one is to make sure that we're connecting with our young people and making sure that those that are attending are embraced, because many times we find the younger legislators may feel like that those that have been serving for a while are not very receptive to their ideas. But the idea is really that there is a connection that all of us have. And with that connection creates an environment that allows us to work together. and then also be a resource for each other.
I love that you talk about the youth component, bridging the gap between newly elected younger legislators that are coming into office versus those who may have been serving for a couple of years or maybe, some time. How does the conference help foster that synergy between younger and seasoned? I'll call them seasoned folks.
I like that idea. Since I'm a seasoned millennial, I love that
Absolutely,
idea. But no, I
absolutely.
think the main thing is that those of us that have served for a number of years realize that at some point we were just as those individuals that are coming in. And when you understand that and realize that, you also embrace the ideas, you embrace the suggestions, but also you are providing for them some probably resource or information that they may not have thought about. So it's a way of engaging, keeping them coming each time. And the first thing I saw when I came into the hotel yesterday was one of our younger members.
All right. That's great. And thinking about young people and young elected officials, we know that there's an election coming up next year. What are some of the things that you want to impress upon the membership about, policy or going back to their constituents as we move closer and closer to the presidential election?
Well, first thing, in terms of moving closer and closer to the presidential election, I think the legislators play a key role if they're actively engaged in their community that they represent, in terms of making sure the issues that are important to our communities are the messages that they hear. And those messages that they hear would be messages that would motivate them to go to the polls and vote. I think that's a major part of what we should be doing as a part of what we will be doing at this conference, really a call to action. We have a responsibility as legislators who represent a certain part of our state that we are in to make sure, one, that the issues are talked about, the messages are clear, and that we're able to motivate and, based on our actions, our people to go to the polls and vote.
That's great. And we know that Black turnout is critical in every single election, not just a presidential year, but even in midterm years.
Exactly.
And oftentimes people will say, well, if the Black vote is down, that will swing the election, either for or against whatever candidate people are supporting. And so the fact that people are congregating here in Nashville this week for this conference, thinking about the future, hopefully also thinking about key messaging. Do you have any points or key messages that if there's someone who's watching and say, well, I'm Black, I'm not necessarily sure if I'm gonna turn out this next election, what is one message that we can give to our viewers to say, you need to turn out. This is important. Every year is an important election year, but as a state legislator, how do you impress upon the mass that turning out in a presidential year is critical?
Well, my message is always, the beginning starts and focuses around education, because that's my background. I believe that, one, we want to make sure we have teachers and individuals in those classrooms that believe that every child that walks into that classroom can learn, and especially children that look like me. We want to make sure that happens. Two, we want to make sure that we are also aware of the needs of our children and what those needs are. What do we need? Do we need to provide more funding for them to have supplies? Do we need to making sure they have the best lab supplies for their classes? All of those things, that's a message. Education is important. Each one of us want to make sure. I've never seen a parent that did not want his or her child to be successful, and no matter what level they were. So I think for me, I always start with the idea of education. Education, I believe that if our children are well educated, that means they can get good jobs, they are able to go to college, they are able to live in places that are good for them, and then they are able to be productive citizens once they become adults. So I think that that would be a message that I continue to provide for the people, and then build on those from the economic side to owning their own businesses, et cetera.
Yes, that's great. I want to turn finally to your tenure. You are the president, and congratulations on serving. What does it mean to be at the helm of an organization like this?
One, I'm honored that members thought or felt that I was capable of leading. Two, I believe that whatever we do, it's a team approach. Even though I am the president, being the president just means that I get to speak for the organization. But before speaking, there are many others that are part of that process in making sure that our message, whatever that message is going to be, is one that is articulated and resonate with the individuals that we represent.
That's great. Well, is there a message that you'd like to leave with conference attendees as they begin to pour in and go throughout the days of the conference? What's the message from the leadership that you would like to leave with folks?
One, I believe that that we're at a conference that is here for you, for the individuals. Two, to provide resources that you may not have access to within your individual states, or a new idea that they've not thought about. So I hope that they come with the same enthusiasm that I have about the opening of this conference, and that their enthusiasm continues and causes them to leave the conference willing to do more to represent the people.
Absolutely. Our people. That's
Yes.
right. Black people.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. And final question, just looking ahead next year, can you give us a preview? Where will the conference take place? If you're allowed to say, if you're not, then I understand, but just giving folks a look ahead at something that they could expect next year.
Generally, the conference during an election year is generally held in D.C., Washington, because it's after the conference, and something about being in the nation capital makes a difference. So to celebrate another 4 years, or to plan and prepare for those things that are important to the organization.
Okay, well, great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, and great conference. Look ahead, and we look forward to coming back to you maybe at the end just to do a final wrap up of what happened this week.
My pleasure. Thank you.